Hello world, I am Curtis Simpson, and this is the Jectives Typography News number 13. Today is August 17th, 2025. You might have noticed last week there was no episode. That is because I was in Sao Paulo on a family trip. So there's 2 weeks worth of content to talk about today and about 1 hour to do it. I have water, I have Red Bull. I'm gonna try and power through this. And hopefully I won't miss any comments in chat, but if I do, I apologize. Let's get started. We typically start with events. I don't have any new events for you, but I do have, that's not true. I do have some upcoming events, but I wanted to talk about what we've been talking about lately, which was TypeCon. Like I've said before, TypeCon they didn't stream anything, so this took place August 7th through the 9th, I think. And I'm just gonna let this play in the background right now. They didn't post anything live, like I said they would, like I mentioned that they wouldn't. But what they did do is they posted a few different live streams of like the reception area or the intermissions between things. I think this is the best video from there. This is from this is Sam Berlow walking around and just kind of talking to people at the event. I'm not sure what portion of the event this is, but you can see some pretty big names right here. And I think a lot of times with these conferences and things, you'll see presentation online, but you don't necessarily know what the vibe is. I think this video does a very good job of showing what the vibe of the event is and shows you, some of the people that are going to be there. It showcases some of the stands where they're like selling books and merch and stuff like that. And this just makes me excited for when I move back to the US and I can go to events like this again. And I've never been to TypeCon, but the first year that I'm back is going to be the first year that I attend, assuming that it's in the US. I mean, I think that it will be though. Yeah, you can watch this. Everything's linked in the description. Everything for the whole episode is going to be linked in the description. So if you're watching this live and you want to skip ahead, go ahead. You don't have to listen to me blab, but if you're watching this in the future, just know that everything is in the description. So I'm just going to show you the TypeCon YouTube page here. And this is just to note once again that they don't usually post the presentations very recently. So I noted before the last one was from like 2021 and it got posted 5 months ago. So you're about like 4 years behind, I guess. But 4 days ago, they did post this one here talking about lettering the logo for the event. They talked to the artist that did that. So maybe this year will be different and we'll get some more insights into what took place. Because if you didn't go, you just don't know what happened. Something that you can attend though are studio sessions. This is on the studio, but it's Creative Boom. Creative Boom created the studio, which is kind of like a social network or more, it's almost more like a Discord or like a Slack server for creatives. You do have to like apply to get into it, but I don't think that it's very exclusive. I don't know, I applied whenever it first opened. There's a real quick application where it's like, why do you want to join? What do you like? Are you an illustrator, designer, like just interested? Those types of things. And then you get in. I think it's mostly just to prevent bots and bad actors and stuff like that from joining. So I'm not going to go into the website right now. If that's something you want to see, we can look at this as like a sort of another tool, but just check out Creative Boom, the studio. If you want to check out more, this is linked in the description, like I said, but there are a ton of studio sessions. And these are basically like live streams where they're talking to different creatives. Elliot J. Stocks, we got a book about him coming, a book review by him coming up. But you can see they've got this planned out all the way until the end of December. These are all online, 100% online, and they're 100% free. So if you watch, if you're in the studio, then you can just watch any of these for free. Session replays are also on here as well. Some of these you can actually watch on YouTube though. So for me, YouTube is much more convenient. I always forget to check these these open web sites, like the Studio, or I don't know, any news site. I don't even know how many like news or design things I've subscribed to and unsubscribed to, because I just forget to check the websites, and that is unfortunate. That's, just how reliant I am on all these aggregators that I don't like, all these social media platforms that I don't like, because we miss out on things. But the Studio is really cool. Everybody on there has been really nice that I've interacted with. But even if you don't care about the social, the social aspect of it, I think joining it for free, just to be able to watch these events and stuff live as they're happening, is a really cool thing to do. So I don't have these individual links or these individual events linked below, but I do have this page right here that we're looking at linked in the description. So you'll be able to see all of the events coming from Creative Boom via the Studio. Let's move on to some real news. Taylor Swift. So I'm not gonna have a ton to say about this, but I kind of have like an overarching theme going on here. As you know, like many times I have this thread that I pick up on throughout the week. And one of them right now is that the general public doesn't understand typography. And I think that a lot of the comments that are made are, uneducated, misinformed comments. And then I think the other half of it is like people that do understand typography or don't are just being like purposely disingenuous to try and like prove some kind of point. This is the new album. I think it's cool. I think a lot of the branding is really cool. Let's look at so here's the real album. If we go to the shop, we can see like how some of it's being used, how this branding's being used. That's really slow, huh? Oh, we're getting like the Portuguese version of it. But you can see like man, it's really slow, huh? You can see she's got like the record, the CD, the cassette. Artists have to pull out all the stops to get, a living these days. I don't think Taylor Swift's necessarily having any trouble with that. But the reason I'm talking about this, everybody's talking about the album. It's, I think the branding looks great. I think the colors look really cool. But this is a typography channel, so we're going to talk about the typography. I haven't looked into like the general sentiment, but I'm going to point out this comment because it came up on my Blue Sky feed. Someone said, this is Aggie, Bo Baggy. I don't follow this person, but I do follow Manicule Madness, and they commented, and so then I saw this one. They wrote, I found out that the font used for Showgirl that's the name of the album. I found out that Showgirl is a free Adobe font called Gazetta Variable, and using a widely available free to download font for album art is low-key disappointing. It's like the fact that Avatar is just written in papyrus font. Where's the pizzazz, the creativity? This is a comment that like sounds like they're saying something if you don't know anything about typography, right? Like it sounds like, oh, this person knows the name of a font. This person knows that it's widely available and free to download. And this person knows about papyrus being used in Avatar. Kind of funny, right? The pizzazz is right there. And this is my point. Like people that comment these things, like they just don't, it doesn't mean anything. Be glad you missed the dial-up. Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that I'm not trying to do this on dial-up for sure. But first of all, Manicule Madness on here wrote, free Adobe, because clearly this person, while they might know the name of the font, don't understand that Adobe fonts are not free. Sometimes there are Google fonts on there or like OFL typefaces. Wow, even the Adobe is really slow right now. I did switch internet providers, but I got fiber, so I should be even better right now. Shoot, I was gonna pull this up. We'll see if it loads in the background. what I was trying to say is that this is available on Adobe Fonts. Obviously, Adobe Fonts isn't free though. You know, you pay for it monthly, even if you do like a small subscription like I do with InCopy. But you can get this right now if you want it. I'm losing my train of thought here because this Adobe thing isn't reloading. My point is, it's not free, first of all. And second of all, the pizzazz is right there, like GL notes here. The pizzazz is in the entire design. You know, you don't need like a gaudy font to make a good design. You don't need a gaudy font to make like pizzazz. It's literally glitter and sparkling. Here's the typeface. Okay, so I think Adobe does a decent job showcasing this here, but let's see if we can zoom in and make it bigger. Man, it looks way better. It looks way better on my portrait monitor, but you can see the little animation here. Let's make sure I'm not in the way. It's a variable font. She's going to be able to do a ton of stuff with it, or her team's going to be able to do a ton of stuff with it. There's actually only one, you know, main axis here, but it's got italic, it's got variable, or not variable. It's got italic, it's got Roman. Old man here. I don't like the subscription models. I hear you. This is my only subscription my only subscription is to Adobe Fonts. There's so much good stuff on there, and I want to be able to talk about it. But I hear you. I use Affinity, so I'm out of the subscription ecosystem as well. But Gazetta variable on here, I think this is a very nice choice. The font looks cool. It's not something you see everywhere. It's by TypeCon. Edwin, I'm not going to be able to say this. Edwin Morera, Balerdes. I don't know if I'm saying it right or wrong. Edwin from TypeCon made this. And yeah, it's an Adobe font, but it's variable. She's going to be able to animate this, going to be able to do all kinds of fun stuff with it. And since it doesn't have this crazy pizzazz this person was commenting about, you can do stuff like this because you can make a simple font more exciting, much more easy than you can make like a crazy font like curls or something. You know, you can't add much more to like a crazy typeface. GL says, I've been meaning to switch to Affinity, but it's tough because I'm so used to Illustrator and InDesign. Yeah, for sure. I use both of those now. I wasn't so reliant on Photoshop, but I use Illustrator and InDesign a ton before I switched. And I have found Affinity Designer and Publisher to be good enough for me. But there are good things and bad things with it. I guess this is like a whole other episode I could do on making the switch to Affinity. Oh, do you use Affinity? Yeah. I really like it, and I like the speed of it. I like the integrations between it. And the typography is like 98% there. There's going to be some things that Adobe can do with variable fonts right now and color fonts that color fonts just don't exist in Affinity. I personally don't. We're going to look at a color font later. I don't have a lot of use for color fonts, but yeah, the transition for me was easy too. My caveat would be if someone is like a huge Photoshop user, Affinity Photo and Photoshop are light years apart. If you're doing simple photo editing like you might do in like Lightroom or something, you could get by probably. But if you're using like the Photoshop, all of like the AI features that they didn't used to call AI, but if you're using any of like the fill features and stuff that like automatically do stuff, Affinity Photo is not gonna do it. Form fillable fields. Daryl says, I just wish I could figure out how to do form fillable fields. Yeah, I haven't messed around. Are you talking about with PDFs? I haven't messed around too much with that kind of stuff. I mostly use it for the videos and, you know, thumbnails and then just playing around. But yeah, I haven't had to do too many forms or anything with it yet. But my point here is like, you know, yeah, it's an Adobe font, but it looks great. I think it works. And it'll be fun to see what else they end up doing with this typeface. Much less exciting than Taylor Swift is this typeface used by Andrew Cuomo's mayoral campaign. And this is what I'm talking about, because that person, I forgot her name already, Aggie, was talking about Taylor Swift PDFs. Yeah. Yeah, the PDFs, I guess, could be a problem because you've got Adobe and the competitor. Maybe that's the issue. But it sounds like you have more experience with them than me, so I'll not try to give any advice on it. But so Aggie, clearly just like uninformed, uneducated on typography and design and stuff like that. That one's an easy one to dismiss. Yeah, it's annoying that someone's saying this kind of thing, but they are just ignorant to typography, you know? Fast Company is not, and Fast Company is talking about this Andrew Cuomo typeface, the font that was used on it, and saying, you know, they're trying to say like this came out of a PowerPoint and that it's the default font, which it's not. Let me see if I can find. I replied to their. Did they change it? Oh, they're saying that it looks like Calibri, and then they tried to like say like we reached out to them, but they didn't reply. It's not Calibri. It's a Google font called ASAP, and it's by Omnibus Type, which is a good type foundry. And oh, you can see right here. I even have it on there, so you can see like exactly what it is. I'm not going to talk too much about this one because I don't really care that much. It's not like that interesting a logo. It's definitely better than this one that he was using before. But my point with this one is it's kind of frustrating that it's frustrating when people who don't know about typography make those types of comments, but Fast Company is a design publication. They know this isn't Calibri, and they're acting in bad faith to try and, you know, denigrate this campaign. I have no horse in the race. I don't live in New York. I don't care whether he wins or not. I don't care about any of it. But I don't like that they're using typography to kind of like push some sort of message. And we saw the same thing with the Huffington Post here, and a lot of, you know, people that are talking online about this ICE promotional video that the US government put out. And I'm not even going to worry about the whole thing. The Cuomo looked like a gas station logo. Yeah. It does. It looks like, what does the BP logo have that starburst? I think the BP logo has that like starburst type of thing. Yeah, it's not a good logo at all. But the font isn't Calibri, and Fast Company knows that. They know that it's not like the standard typeface. This is something that people have been talking about, though. The Huffington Post covered it here, and it's linked in the description. But I've seen this on Blue Sky. People are posting it everywhere, claiming that the typeface at the end of this is based off like Nazi Germany Fraktur black lettering. And I don't know one way or the other about this, like why they did it. I tend to agree with Stephen Heller. He has a quote on here saying that it's more gangsta than it is like Nazi Germany, because it looks more like Old English than it does Fraktur. But here's the thing. This interview has like actual professional designers and stuff, and most of them can point out the fact that like, yeah, it's not the right font. But then you've got people like this, people like Aggie that commented about the Taylor Swift one, saying this font's pretty close to Fraktur or Mein Kampf's original font. Like, Fraktur is not a font, it's a style of black letter. And these two don't look anything alike. Just because they're made with the same instrument doesn't mean that it's the same typeface. Do I think that, I mean, I'm not even going to comment on like ICE or any of this nonsense, but, you know, we talked about Taylor Swift. Here's one of her covers from, I don't know, a few years ago, 2017 or something like that. Reputation used this. I don't see any of these people, you know, talking about Taylor Swift making a Nazi album. And it's because it's just a stupid argument, you know. The New York Times uses it. Black letter isn't exclusively Nazi, and as anyone that actually knows history, as we'll talk about whenever we read this book, when I do the review of this book, Paul Renner, they actually stopped using it because they they said that it was too Jewish. So looks like Rudolph Cox lettering. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And that's the thing, is it's frustrating that people who know better say bad things about typography to try and push some sort of political agenda. And I'm not here to comment on like the politics of it, but it's just frustrating that there's these two groups that are both doing the same thing. The dumb people that just like want to prove some kind of point, and like they don't really know anything about typography in the first place. And then you have the people that actually do understand what's going on, and they purposely misrepresent what the typography is. But the reason I'm saying all of this is just because I think that it's important. I'll put my face cam on here. I think it's important like to recognize that this is happening, just for the fact that as designers, as typographers, we're going to have to deal with this kind of nonsense. So, you know, we people that are dealing with real typography, real typographers and designers and type designers, we already understand the historical context of a lot of these things. But we also have to consider the fact that people are going to pervert those, and they're going to like misrepresent them to try and prove their own points. Whatever that means, you know, everybody has an opinion. I don't know what the answer or what the conclusion is to this. I just think it's important to like kind of be aware of it, and then maybe it'll come in handy at some other point. Let's talk about more fun things. Oh no, this page is gone. DixonBaxi had a great, very good case study of Delta, and it looks like it's gone now. I hope it's not really gone. Let me take off the face cam. I always make that mistake. I hope this isn't actually gone. It looks like their website's not working. Oh, they do this dumb thing where you have to click on it in order to just see the basic website. They have a terrible website. Great designers, terrible website. We looked at this one here, see the signs. I'm really disappointed this Delta one's gone. Okay, well, that'll save me some time. DixonBaxi did a really good redesign of the branding for Delta, and man, it was so good. Maybe we'll look at it next week if it comes back up. Yeah, that was one of the main things I wanted to look at today. But we can look at these other brandings. They're much smaller. Design Bridge and Partners, they don't have it on their website, but they rebranded Colgate-Palmolive. And, you know, it went from that to that. It's not anything crazy, but the typography did change. And you can see, you know, it looks much more in line with 2025. This, you know, looks, I don't know, like like an auto brand or something with the italics and the all caps. One thing I want to criticize on here that isn't typography related is this dumb smile. Like, I get the smile, Colgate is toothpaste, but smile, yeah, exactly. But Amazon owns the smile. I know they're not the first one to do it, but every time a brand does this, we've seen this a bunch of times in the last few years. Every time a brand adds this dumb smile to it, it just reminds me of Amazon. And I don't know who really cares about this corporate Colgate-Palmolive logo. You're never really going to see it. You know, you're going to see the Colgate logo on your toothpaste or whatever product they're pushing. But the typography looks nice. I didn't even actually look to see what the typeface was on here. I think just in general, stole from Nike. Yeah, nothing's 100% original. And Amazon clearly didn't, you know, invent the smiley, but just people go to Amazon constantly on the website. You know, they use Amazon every day, a lot of people every week. And to use something that's so common in most people's lives seems like a silly thing to do. But the new logo looks better than the old one, so hard to complain. This is the Royal Drawing School rebrand that was done for, like, I think it's their 25th anniversary. Yeah, 25th anniversary. Pentagram did this. We looked at Pentagram a few times, and they did their typical thing where they put it all in these different colors and stuff like this. And whenever I see this, I always complain. I think that it makes sense, not this part here exactly, but I think it makes sense to showcase it and make sure that it works in a bunch of different colors, just because it's kind of like the museum examples. Let me pause. GL is saying, I think it's too similar. There are more geometric smileys that are distinct, but this one looks too close for it to not be mistaken, even if it was subconscious. 100%. I agree. That smiley is, I looked, I had to go to Amazon real quick. It's nearly identical. If it had the little arrow on the end of it, it would look just like the Amazon one. I agree. But I think this Royal Drawing School one looks very nice. You know, it's simple, it's type driven. But when we're dealing with art and museums and these types of things, it's good to be a little bit more neutral so that the art can actually stand out and the typography can just kind of be there as utility. But I have the same complaint as usual. I don't think that there's any color that this owns. Like, I don't know what the Royal Drawing School's color is because it's just a rainbow of colors. They do have a custom typeface here, Royal Drawing School Sans, and I don't think that Pentagram mentions who did the typography. It was probably in-house. I don't see them working with outside groups for their typography too often. But I could be mistaken, and we have so much to look at today that I'm not gonna double check real quick, but I think this looks really nice. I always look at Pentagram projects just because maybe they aren't as big now as they once were, but I do think that they kind of nudge the industry in certain ways, or they're kind of a good zeitgeist check in terms of the industry, in terms of like what some of these bigger players are doing. But I think it looks nice. Another, you know, bespoke typeface for a brand. And I think a lot of that comes down to not wanting to pay for licensing, because licensing is such a headache, as we talk about every single week. But you can see it in use on their website. We got a nude model in the background there. And they're using it, you know, even for the UI and stuff. So I think that the typography here works really well. And I think it's going to blend in the background really well for, you know, all of the different art that's going to come out of the school. Let's look at new releases, because there are so many, and there's so many good ones. The first one's kind of silly. Let me just click through a bunch of these so we can get some loaded in the background. This is Mocha. This is Mocha Bubble and Mocha Bubble+Sans. This one is by Set Sail Studios. Let me see if I can zoom in a little better on this. This is clearly a display font. It doesn't have to be a display font because you could get rid of all the little bubble versions of it, but I think it's really meant to be used simultaneously. I really like this, but I would really like this a lot more if it was a specific brand using this. I think like you can do stuff like this and it works really well together. I think this would be great for a super small coffee shop that's just local. They could kind of own this branding within their niche market, but I don't think that this is going to work for any big brands. I mean, I don't think any big brands are going on, you know, Creative Market and stuff like that and buying a $28 font. But just in general, this isn't going to be useful for most of us, but it is pretty cool. And I think that within those niche markets where you're just dealing with like a local coffee shop, this could be a really cool and like affordable way to like brand a client. I don't know how deep this typeface is. I think you'd probably have to swap out the sans whenever you got to like UI design and stuff like that, because I'm like 50% sure right now that these are what you get. I think you're just getting the basics. For $28, you're probably just getting the basics, but it looks cool. You know, if that's what you needed for that very specific thing. More developed fonts though. We've got a bunch of future fonts today because there are new future fonts and then there are like updated future fonts. So this is I'm going to go over the new releases first, and then at the end of the episode, I'll do updates because I don't know if I'm going to actually get there. But like I said, all these are in the description. So if you want to look at them at the same time, you can click in the description and see these. If I end up having to skip some of the updates and stuff, all of the ones that I wanted to talk about are in the description as well. This is Padova, variable font. It's by DualType. I'm a fan of DualType. I really like Dual Casual, but I found this one to be interesting because it's kind of like this variable font can kind of turn it into like almost like a Scotch Roman. I don't think this is necessarily a Scotch Roman, but the concept, you got the high contrast, the low contrast, and you could kind of go from like a text font to a modern font, and then get that in between, contrast. I don't know what I would use this for. It's not necessarily a typeface that really speaks to me. I don't like typefaces that have those real sharp serifs on them. They feel like thorns. Like I don't want to prick my finger on it. But, as with all things, if it's a typeface, if this is what you need for a specific project, I'm going to showcase it on here, and then maybe you'll remember it later. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention on this one. DualType, he many times has really in-depth backstories as to where his typeface inspiration came from, the progress along the way, and stuff like that. So he actually started this a long time ago when he was in school he was studying, he was doing type at Cooper West. So this is like a student font that he's now turned into a professional font. And like I said, I don't have a use case for this right now, but I do love the stories that he always adds along the way. And, that to me adds something to the typeface. I will admit, though, I didn't read this one. BN Blooms. This is a free typeface from BN Nix. I'm not sure how much longer this one's going to be free because, they're usually free during the launch window, and I forget what day this came out, but since I missed 2 weeks, I know this isn't going to last too much longer. This is a fun one, and he actually gives the inspiration too, if we can find it. Here it is, A24. Make sure my face isn't in the way. This was inspired by this A24 logo. It says the design was by Noah Baker Studio. Development log is a good idea. Yeah. And that's one of the things I really like about future fonts too, is they have like this version history at the bottom, where they have like, they'll do the updates and stuff like that. But these journal entries on future fonts are really cool to read. And it's really nice to like, I don't know, get some insight other than just the marketing language. Like we look at this one, BM Blooms, and we're just kind of getting marketing language mostly. But we at least get this little history piece here. This is another typeface that like, download it just because it's free if you're a font hoarder like me. But it's not one that I think you're going to be able to get a ton of use out of, because as soon as you do something like this, where you've got a bunch of letters all together, you're going to start to see the repeats. One good thing about this one, though, is that there are versions with and without the letters. So what I think the best use case would probably be to like put the flowers in now and then, not use them on every single letter, because otherwise you're going to get these repeating like A, where the flowers are all in the exact same spot. I think this looks great. For some reason, this reminds me of like Monty Python. I don't know if anybody remembers the Monty Python, like the little like chapter cutscenes that they used to do. They would be like illuminated manuscripts sometimes. I don't know, the flowers of that remind me of that. This little person climbing up reminds me of little scribes that they used to have in those cutscenes. But yeah, I think this one looks great. I'm a fan of Brandon Nickerson. He does a lot of these display fonts. I mention this every time, so I apologize if you're a normal viewer. I know some of you are. Subscribe to his newsletter because he always gives out the fonts for free during the launch window. So if you catch him then, you can save yourself $55 if you wanted to buy this someday. And not only during the launch window, it's already over now, so I'm not going to show it, but he had a font, I think it was called Aurora, recently, that like went back to being free. So for like a few days, the typeface was free again. But yeah, so this is what you get right here. What I was noting before is like you do get the alternates. So you get the version with the flowers and the version without the flowers. So I could see a use case where you're mostly using just the normal sans serif, and then now and then you pop in the flowers. So that way you don't have like the repeating flowers that kind of break the illusion. But I think it's really cool, and I like the inspiration from the A24 logo. So thought I'd bring that up. I always bring up the free fonts, the good ones anyway. This one is, oh, what is this? Goloso. Oh, you know what? I left my VPN on today. Whoops, that's probably why we're having some trouble. I don't know. Do I risk it? Do I risk turning it off midstream? Probably not, right? This is Alecrim. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Alecrim. It's by Linotype, but it's not actually by Linotype. This is by Sofia Mohr. Would be cool if they did something like ABC Stefan, so there could be more variety without looking repetitive. Yeah, GL, that's my biggest problem with those types of display fonts is it breaks it almost immediately if you don't have a lot of alternates and stuff like that. I'm not familiar with that though. It's ABC Stefan. I recognize the name. Dynamo, yeah. Let's see what they did. Oh yeah, this was the artist. They used his handwriting. Right. Yeah. Variable fonts or like the open type features and stuff like that, where like you're really building out a lot of the variability. What would you even say? Like the alternate characters. Yeah, Stefan Marx. That's who it was. Yeah, that's a good point. And this was a super developed font it was for a book project, right? Look at all those icons. That's really cool. Yeah, this came out a couple months ago, or at least it was promoted a couple months ago. Yeah, it would have been cool. It would be cool if it had more variety. But you know, his production is so fast. It's almost like mixtapes versus like actual albums. Like he's just cranking out typefaces. I think probably you could, you know, if somebody really wanted it for a project, like for to use it as like a bespoke typeface, they could probably reach out to him and get it, you know, more developed, or hire, you know, work with someone, hire someone else with him to like develop it a little more, do some of the engineering and stuff to get some more variety in there. Yeah, this one is Allegra by Sofia Mohr. And let's see, the reason I'm bringing this one up is because the price tag, you know, lots of times I'm on here complaining about price tags. The price tag on this one seems reasonable for once, you know, $80. I mean, more than reasonable. $80 for like a full type family. It's got the variable. It's basically, you know, the Swiss fonts we always see, you know, with a little bit more character. You got that R with the little kick, that little leg of the R. It's got that. I can't even think. My brain's not working right now. But I think this looks nice. Brazilian Gerais. I think it looks very nice. It seems well developed. And I think that, again, if you're working with a client that's on like more of a budget, this would be like a very big type family to be able to use, or a typeface to be able to use with a lot of styles. It's got the variable font. And it's not going to be just like a Google font that everybody else has. Currently it's number 8. Yesterday it was number 9. So this one's climbing the charts. On my fonts, hot new fonts, it is already number 8. So that's pretty cool for her and for Linotype. But you know, we've seen lots of typefaces like this before, but it all comes down to the features and stuff like that, right? The features and the price and the license. Not a huge fan of display fonts. I just decorate, modify normal fonts. Case by case, says Daryl. Yeah, I'm more in agreement with you on that. I download all the display ones because they're fun, but I rarely ever have a use case for display fonts. He says as he uses the display font for objectives. Yeah, I use Bubble+Sans, which is clearly a display font for objectives, but it's mostly for the logo, and then I'm using SilverStag for the other stuff. But yeah, I can see both sides of it. But yeah, I think that the Taylor Swift example is a good example of like using an actual display font versus doing something creative with a normal typeface that you could then use throughout the brand. Generally. Oh shoot, I wanted to show this. Let's see. This is Rithum. This is by Big Fog Foundry. Let me see if I can get this nice and big. This isn't out yet. He was talking about it. So I just asked him, like, can I have some specimens? Can I see the typeface to show off? So this one's not released yet, but this one's coming. I thought it was cool because it's based on this Delacroix. Is it Delacroix? Let's see if we can get it to come up on fonts in use. This 70s font, which I love these 70s fonts. It's based on this. So I think it's going to be pretty cool that there's going to be like a new version of this. Lubelin's, yeah, Lubelin. Is it Lubelin or Lubelin? I've never known how to say his name. Yeah, I'm a fan. But yeah, so I just have those two specimens to show. He said that whenever like the light version comes out, he's going to send out a beta. So I should be in line for that, and we should be able to test it out and look at it. But I'm kind of excited about this one. I don't know. It's something unique. It's, you know, pretty display-ish, but it looks nice. Lube Allen. Herb Lube Allen. Yeah, that sounds right. Herb Lube Allen. I think I've heard that in presentations. They always, because they've got the, where is it at that they've got Herb Lube Allen Theater or the school? My brain really isn't working right now. Yeah, Herb Lube Allen. Great type designer, letterer, type designer, right? Either. I like the small caps to caps ratio. Oh shoot, I'm not sure what we were talking about on that one. Sorry, Daryl, I missed that. Cooper Union, yeah, Herb Lubalin at Cooper Union. Man, you guys know everything. Yeah, but I'm really excited to see more of this one from Big Fog Foundry. I think it's going to be cool. It's called Rithum. Yeah, and so whenever we get updates on that, I think he's going to send me a beta version of it. We could test it out on stream, but it's interesting. Let's see. We have Brutal Types launch. This was one that was being teased for a while. I wasn't sure what Brutal Fonts actually was going to be. Did I go to the wrong page? Retype Foundry, Brutal Types. Let's go to the actual page. It turned out to be like 50 different brutalist display fonts, display typefaces, which is really cool. They're priced, you know, moderately. I think some of them are more worth the $50 than others, but yeah, I think almost all of these are $50. Let's click on one. Yeah, they're all like, oh no, 50 euros. They're all like 50 euros per use. My only complaint about that is that like the character set you're seeing right now is what you're getting. So they're not very well developed for $50 in my opinion, but I get it. It's like this historical project. They're going around and grabbing all these brutalist signs and typography and stuff like that, turning them into typefaces. I love the concept. Not all 50 of these are brand new. Some of these are ones that were included that were already, you know, in existence. But a lot of them are brand new, and you can go down to the bottom and you can see release year 2025. See if we can find an older one. Release year 2025. No, but I did see some on here that were a little bit older. But yeah, they're really cool. Again, you know, display typefaces. They're brutalists. But I'm a fan of the project in general. And I would expect this just to continue to grow. So it's kind of cool that Retype Foundry put this together. I don't know. There's not a lot to say about it. You know, with display fonts, you kind of get what you get. But it's cool. And if you needed a brutalist display font, now you've got, you know, 50 of them here that have been somewhat vetted, you know, more than like Dafont or something like that. Yeah. So that finally came out. It's been teased for a while. It's interesting to finally understand what it is. This here, though, is Gradine by DSType Foundry. This has a lot of character, but it's not a display font, I guess, in my opinion. Don't do any of the cookies. But this type family is huge. So I'll scroll through real quick, and then we can talk about it a little bit. But it's got Roman Italic, Sans Italic, Incised Sans, Antiqua, Black Letter, Script, Greek Sans, Cyrillic Sans, Arabic, and Ornaments. So it's a huge type family. I don't know, you know, I always look at these things and wonder, like, what could I use that for? I don't have a use case for this, but I like it, but can't pronounce it. Yeah. Gradine, I think. But yeah, it's really cool that this has just tons of family, or what would you even say, like tons of typefaces that kind of are all in this super family going together. And it's not just all Latin, you know, they've got Cyrillic, Greek, Arabic. The ornaments are always fun. I love when a typeface has like, you know, the usable workhorse and also a fun ornamented version of it. So I think you kind of understand what you're getting when you look at this, but it has tons of glyphs. Let's see if we can go to the about page. Maybe that'll be a little better. Yeah. So you can see all of the stylistic sets, 20 different stylistic sets. I'm assuming this is mostly on the swash version. So if we scroll down to the bottom here, this one here, I think this like script one probably has, you know, most of the swashes and stuff like that. Can I spell subscribe? Yeah, it looks nice, right? Oh, this one looks like it has a little bit of, oh, maybe not. It probably has alternates though, because I doubt that big swashy Y is the only version that you're allowed to use. But this has a very particular aesthetic. You know, it's not like a modern thing, but if you needed this aesthetic, I think this is a great, you know, complete family of typefaces that would get you a long way if this is like really what you needed for a project. I could see this being used for something historical. Probably be great for like a movie or something like that, where you really wanted like a Wes Anderson movie. I know it wouldn't fit his aesthetic, but like how they really pay attention to like the typography within the film. This one is much smaller. This is from Harold's Fonts. I'm a fan of Harold's Fonts. I know they're not for everybody, but he does a lot of these typefaces that are inspired particularly by like one specific thing. So this one here is the 1954 film Carmen Jones, which I'm not familiar with. I don't know, that came out before even my dad was born. But the typography immediately looks like that. Like it looks like those old TV shows and movies and stuff. So I immediately get that vibe of like, I don't know, Gilligan's Island or something like that. But it's a display font, like a lot of these are. So you're going to get some of those repeating things. You know, the originals would have been probably hand lettered, don't you think? Yeah, it says lettering by Saul Bass. Okay, so this was, yeah, of course it's Saul Bass. So, you know, Saul Bass would have lettered all of that, and it would have been, each letter could have been unique and stuff like that. But it's cool when typefaces kind of encapsulate that, even if it's not a perfect replacement. And for 20 bucks, you know, if you wanted something similar, it's a nice alternative, you know, for someone that doesn't have the budget or the skill to hire someone. This is Gieo. I don't know if I'm saying this one right. GeoText by ÁccentiaType, I think. I really like the specimen on this one. Let me see if this, oh, we're gonna have to, I have it. Here it is. I really like the specimen on this one, and this is the main reason I wanted to talk about this one, because I think that this one, while it can definitely be used for like display, like big headline titles and stuff like that, I think that it is designed to be a text. You know, it's in the name to be text, but it just feels so cozy. I don't know what it is about it. It just, sometimes you come across those typefaces, right, where it just feels good to read it. Sometimes you have those in books where it's just, it feels nice to read it. I think I mentioned that in the Thinking with Type review by Ellen Lupton. Now I can't remember what typeface was used, but whatever it was, it felt really good. Like you wanted to read it because you wanted to look at the font. I think this GeoText is one of those. Like it just looks really nice and it feels kind of human. Looks good in body copy. Yeah, I agree. The subtle lean. Yeah, that subtle lean, the if I can scroll back up here. Okay, let's try and go fast. You can see I'm not using Adobe right now. This is Ocular. But yeah, she's got that subtle lean, that slant. And it pushes you forward when you're reading, you know? And I think she even mentioned, yeah, she mentioned that right here. Geo's like silent, discreet enough to go unnoticed as the reading happens, while gently guiding the mind as it navigates the content. Yeah, I think it just kind of pushes you along as you read, that little slant. But I think that she did a really great job with the specimen here, and you can kind of really get a feel for what it's supposed to do, you know, to be like a display, or not a display, to be the text font body copy. I think it looks great. I'm not sure what the pricing is on this one. Let's click on buy it, but it just, there's not much more to say about it, you know, like it just looks great. It reads, it's got a bunch of OpenType features. So, you know, you're going to get all the stuff that you want in an actual text font. It's not going to, you can see she's got a bunch of discretionary ligatures on here. See how far we can zoom this in. Bunch of discretionary ligatures. You know, you're going to have your, you've got lining figures, tabular figures, fractions, small caps, all the good stuff. It's on I Love Typography, $35 per weight. You know, it's not a cheap one, $300 for the full family for a license, but you know, it's a text font. You're going to be using it for everything. So let's go ahead and move on. I think I've only just got, yeah, I've got just 2 more new ones and we'll get to the updates. Oh man, I only have like 7 minutes. I'm going to have to skip the updates. Let's go ahead and look at these 2 quick ones here. This is Saffielle, another one that I'm not sure how to pronounce. I think that SilverStag, he always does a good job with the specimens. Sometimes the specimens look the same as other specimens, but I think he does a really good job, and I think these do a nice job of showcasing what the typeface can do. You know, a lot of people will probably see this and not necessarily be able to do this themselves if they're, you know, buying a font for the first time, but you know, we can kind of better understand what we could get out of this typeface. But like Daryl said earlier, this might be one that would be better to skip and just use a solid workhorse font and then kind of edit it, you know, because we could blur the edges and stuff like this in a design program. But it looks nice, and it's got some nice ligatures and stuff on it. And it, you know, €40, that's not crazy. Yeah, he's saying bold, nostalgic typeface. I wanted to show this. I wanted to talk about it a little more. I mostly wanted to look at these specimens because I think they look so nice. But let's just try and burn through a few more things. This was a post on Blue Sky from Bob Wertz. I think I originally saw this on Mastodon, but I don't really know how to use Mastodon that well. I saw this on Blue Sky. He's got a free typeface right here that he created for his 50th birthday, and it is aptly named 1975. It's a unicase, kind of, because some of these aren't really... I thought unicase had to be all one size. Maybe it just means a mix between capitals and lowercase. One of you probably knows more than me. GL, any comment? Yeah, it's a unicase font by Bob Wertz, and it's free on his website, which is sbbfonts.com, and it is linked in the description. So just a fun typeface. I really like the icons. It's got the little Lego man, the Frankenstein. You know, one of those things, I don't know when I would have a use case for a stenciled unicase font, but it's free, it's fun, and he's celebrating his 50th birthday by making it. So I'm just going to shout out the names of all these because we don't have time to go into them, but maybe you'll see something that you actually want to click in the links so that you don't have to worry about, are any of these going to be good? I'm going to burn through these so fast. Future fonts. So this one's by V. Rachanen. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Canon Grotesque got an update, more weights, more refinements, more features and stuff. I like this one. Don't have time to talk about it. Gimme. This one is by Typepurcher. I don't know for sure. So GL is talking about the unicase. I don't know for sure, but I think it means it doesn't have separate uppercase and lowercase glyphs and mixes them instead. Yeah, that sounds right. I think that's how I would define it as well. This is Gimme by Typepurcher. I'm not one that's ever gotten into color fonts, but this looks like a really cool color font. For me, color fonts right now are more like tech demos, I guess, because like it's showcasing like maybe this will be the future of typography or font files, but there's not. It just doesn't work in a lot of places. You know, they just don't. You can't use them, so they're fun to look at probably fun to design, but Gimme is on version 13. Super Mallet New got an update. This one was from TypeType. They always make nice typefaces. Den 2014, despite the name, this was updated in 2025. There are a lot of Den options. I'm not sure if this is the best one or not, but you know, it's recently updated. Still not variable though, so that's a little frustrating. I thought that it would be. There are some other Den versions that are variable, but on my fonts, they're like $1,000 instead of $400. So maybe this is a good option. If you don't need to animate it or anything, you know, variable font might not be a big deal for you. But Den got an update from Paratype. Method got an update from Type G. Oh man, this is another one I wanted to look at. I liked that one. Lowe's got an update. This is by Duong Tran, probably saying that wrong. Display font, clearly. Palmetto, this was another nice one. This one got, gosh, I really wanted to look through these. I want to show you something from Palmetto real quick though. So Palmetto was inspired by these Morgan Press wood fonts, wood typefaces. And I mainly wanted to look at it so I could go look at these specimens with you, but we don't have time. This is linked in the description, peculiarmanacle.com. And that's a great website. I think this is worth the time just to click on this. It's got a ton of like psychedelic ephemera on here from the 60s and 70s, the Peculiar Manacle. And I'm probably going to use all the time that I have to look at this real quick. But yeah, this one's linked in the description too. I think it's really cool. I don't even remember how it related to Palmetto. I think, yeah, so it was inspired by one of those wood type specimens. Fetsa got an update. This was DualType as well. We looked at DualType earlier. Fetsa got an update. Man, I really wish I could get through this. I'm going to push it a little bit. Canva hit 100 million monthly active users through their education program, which is crazy. Man, I wish I had more time to talk about this. Just those numbers in general, 100 million. I'm sure they're inflating this a little bit because probably every time a school is part of the program, they probably just count every student in that, you know, in that university or elementary school or whatever. So they're probably counting every student, but still, that's a crazy number. It's in like 190 countries or something, like 800,000 schools. I'm probably saying the wrong numbers right now. I wrote them down. Wait, 190 countries, 800,000 schools. Yeah, it's just crazy that Canva is that prevalent in all these places. And while I don't use Canva, it's crazy to see how far it has come. I think I'm going to have to, okay, I'm going to say this, then we're going to end on one thing. I think this part is depressing though. This is a teacher right here saying, I use Magic Write, which is like the AI Canva thing. I use Magic Write to get an outline that I edit, then Magic Switch to turn the outline into a presentation. I can add branding, matching elements, and photos to enhance this. It further saves me hours every week. Yeah, you're right, Daryl. Canva did purchase Affinity, which worries me a little bit, but we'll see. Maybe it'll be for the better. Yeah, this is super depressing though. This is a teacher saying that they use Canva Magic Write to write the outline for their lesson, and then they use the AI again to create the presentation. Like, are the teachers even teaching anymore? Like, what? This is really frustrating for me. But yeah. Last thing, I like to end on a fun thing. I appreciate it, Daryl. Hopefully next week we are a little less rushed and not trying to cram 2 weeks into one. This is the Gap in-store playlist, and I don't have Spotify. I actually use YouTube Music, so I can't listen to the real playlists on here, but this is not something new. I think he created this blog in 2021, it looks like. But the reason I thought this was cool was because, one, it does have the playlists on here, so you could go listen to music from like 1991. All of these playlists I think are on Spotify. But I really liked looking at the ads on here. Let's see. Yeah, like look at these. These look, I don't know, there's something really striking about these, and they go from like 1992 all the way to 2007, I think. But it's just like a cool time capsule. I know some of you on here said that you were older than me, Daryl, I think. So maybe this will be something interesting to you. But yeah, I'm gonna spend several hours going through all of these playlists and looking at these. But I was never, I never shopped the Gap. I don't think I ever bought anything from the Gap. But I do remember some of these advertisements and stuff like that, and it really does encapsulate a time period. And I think it's interesting to look at the typography, the way it's being used. And I wish that we had more time to talk on here, but it's bath time for my daughter, and I'm 2 minutes late already. So I have to go. I will be back next Sunday. I'm gonna try doing these on Sundays now. We'll see how it goes. You guys can leave a comment and let me know what days are better for you, but I think Sundays are gonna be what I do for the next few weeks and see how it goes. But very good talking to you, GL, Daryl. Good seeing you guys in chat, and I'll hopefully see you next week. Bye.